Ministry of Transport is a large one that houses different sectors, even aviation.
Absolutely. Now, the sum of 263 billion naira has been allocated to the ministry for capital expenditure in the proposed 2018 appropriation bill. But there's a slight increase in the figure when compared to the 102 billion naira and 242 billion naira allocated to the ministry in 2016 and 2017, respectively.
Now, decaying infrastructure is one of the many problems ailing Nigeria's transport sector. Challenges ranging from bad road network, dilapidated railways, and comatose seaports, just to mention a few. The facilities in Nigerian airports are a sorry sight to behold, and many Nigerians have decried the fact that Nigeria doesn't have a national carrier, in spite of the fact that the nation prides itself as the giant of Africa, while smaller countries like Ethiopia and Kenya and, of course, even Rwanda are excelling in that regard.
Yes, well, Transport Minister Rotimi Amechi had earlier in the year stated that the federal government had failed in delivering an efficient transportation system to Nigerians over the years. But given the ills bedeviling the transportation sector, will the 2018 allocation to the Ministry for Capital Expenditure suffice to tackle all the problems we just rolled out and even more?
Well, our guest in the studio is a public affairs analyst. He's also a lawyer, Wale Oshunde. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so there's a slight improvement in the budget for transportation, or transport, if you like, for 2018. But is it enough to really be the catalyst that will change the narrative, you know, that has been so far, that transportation in Nigeria, whether it's aviation, rail, road and what have you, water transportation, is in a very bad state? Will it change that?
It's unfortunate. I actually do not believe that the increase that we have in the budget is actually what would change the story, you know, for good. I want to believe that we need active and improved private sector participation, pure and simple. Even the minister, you know, acknowledged this at the beginning of this administration, and of course, over and over again, he's been reiterating the fact that they need the private sector, you know, to actually complement the effort of the government so that we can actually achieve, you know...
Is it even to complement or actually to drive it and to own that sector?
Well, you know, the truth is you actually cannot take away the fact that government participation is key in, the, you know, in this kind of a sector, because you're talking about, you know, the airports, you're talking about seaports, and then you want to establish what you call the national fleets or the national carriers, you know, both in the aviation sector and, of course, the water transportation sector. So, I mean, government participation is very key. Counterpart funding, you know, and all this equity financing, and you cannot take away the active
well, the sad reality really is that the government cannot carry out all the projects, and that's why there is need for PPP, public-private sector partnership. But then some form of transportation are quite sensitive, like you said, air, water especially. But some could say that why not even unbundle the transportation sector in Nigeria to make the government have total grasp on it? Maybe you say that this sector, like road transportation, private people could go into that, and then let the government face aviation, and then water form of transportation. Will that work?
The lack of political will. We know all these things. We know what to do. Our leaders are quite educated. And I mean, they have been there. They've been around all these sectors for quite a long time, and you know, they know what exactly we need. But you see, we just do not have that political will to do that, which is right. And I think that is quite unfortunate. We should move away from all this. You know, most times it is this paddy-paddy situation. We want to actually privatize this sector, but then if it is not going to be to my benefit, then, you know, it's better not done.
Or maybe because the government somehow is not generating enough funds, and this administration has inherited a lot of sinking funds and loans, but in bad debt already, so might not want to put its hands in so many projects at the same time because there are limited funds anyway.
It's unfortunate. You see, we have enormous opportunities to actually generate funds. In fact, experts have said that this transport sector alone, transportation sector alone, has that capacity to generate 10% of, I mean, add 10%
GDP.
of the yes. And then as of now, what the transportation sector is adding is just about 1.4%, you know, to the GDP, and that is really, really preposterous. I really do not want to believe that we do not have the capacity to generate better funds, but the truth is we have not done enough.
So how realistic is it then when President Muhammadu Buhari gives the matching orders to Amechi and, of course, his works and housing counterpart, Babatunde Fashola, to connect every part of this country, all 36 states, by rail? Yeah. And then you have this budget, 263 billion as capital budget. How is that going to deliver?
It is quite unfortunate again. You see, over and over again, we have had even successive governments talk about this marching order, and then they come up with one policy or the other, and you know, and then nothing comes up at the end of the day. I give you a simple example. In 2013, Singapore, they actually initiated their land transportation master plan. And do you know what the plan is actually going to achieve? By 2030, 85% of the population would be able to access public transport just 10 minutes, by walking 10 minutes from their doorsteps, across everywhere in Singapore. And that is just it. But in Nigeria, I mean, we just talk about this plan and then we roll out another plan again.
There's no master plan for the transportation sector in the country as well. You know, putting in mind what is happening in Lagos now, the setting up of BRT and then other plans. Would you say that maybe it's lack of a proper planning or so that is causing this problem? Because today you hear, okay, this administration is facing rail projects, the other one is facing road projects. At the end of the day, it might be motion without movement.
Absolutely. I think I agree with you. It's lack of proper planning. I mean, I think I was here some time ago and I told you that statesmen would plan for the next generation, politicians would only plan for the next election. I mean, that continues to play out year in, year out. I mean, a situation where this administration or, you know, a particular administration will roll out a master plan, they will start to, you know, lay a foundation for the implementation of such a master plan. Another administration comes in, jettisons that very master plan, brings on board a fresh idea and, you know, a fresh master plan. In fact, that sends the wrong signals to the private sector investors. They don't want to come to a situation whereby you have,
not sure
you have uncertain master plans to guide the activities of the sector.
Whereas government is supposed to be in continuum.
Absolutely.
It's not all negative. I mean, we just finished discussing health, and our guest was like, "Oh my, it's all negative." that we were able to, you know, highlight. But really, come to think of it, it seems that this government has actually achieved some level of traction as far as, you know, let's even look at the rail system. For example, increased investment in infrastructure, the Abuja Metro Rail. This government says it's 98% completed.
As a matter of fact, I think the only rail project that we can point to would be the Abuja-Kaduna. And in fact, arguments have been canvassed by some people in the previous administration that they almost completed that project. And that this administration only came in to finish up and commission. And so you cannot really say that is huge. You know, how would I put it now? You can't say that is significant achievement.
What about the plan to concession airports? So, of course, many stakeholders in the health, aviation sector are complaining already that the government is not even transparent in the process. So they don't even know which section of the airports will be concessioned to private hands for security reasons. But then that move, the concession to private companies to carry out refurbishment and repairs of Nigerian airports.
If we're able to do it very well, in a plain, pure, transparent manner, it would be a fantastic idea. But you see, we still continue to talk about plans to do, plans to achieve, plans to unveil. That would not move us anywhere. We need to really take the bull by the horn and ensure that we do that which we set out to achieve. You see, if we continue to say we are planning, we are thinking, we are proposing.
What do you expect the government to do exactly? If you had opportunity now to meet with the president, what would you tell him to do about the transportation? That this is the first step you should take in the first 3 months to get things started. What would you say?
Fantastic. One, we have to actually resurface the entire perspective and ideas of our airports. Delayed flights, It's not until you go and build aircraft or something that you would now be able to solve the issue of delayed flights.
Yes.
Simple. Put in place mechanisms to ensure that airline operators or the airliners that we have in Nigeria, they do what is right. They ensure that then the aviation fuel issue, because you cannot continue to say that airline operators should do this when you do not provide what they need to do, what they need to do.
Forex availability and all of that, which
so,
they faced most of last year and of course this year.
Exactly. And then, at the same time, our airports are still in shambles. Go to other countries of the world. This is not the way a good airport should look like. And so we really need to just do what we need to do, and then we move ahead.
Only 15 million passengers have used the Nigerian airports in the last year or so, which many, by all standards, is very, very poor. It speaks to the fact that not enough attention, and people are just not impressed by the state and the condition of the airports. But the airports alone are not even what we're talking about. What about water transportation? Nigeria should be one country that can proudly say that our major mode of transportation is water, but we're not even scratching the surface at all. Are we really, really planning to look in that direction with all these plans that we have laid out?
I just do not understand, because we have a fantastic Nigerian Port Authority, and we are actually not doing what we need to do. That agency of government alone should be generating billions of dollars. I'm talking about forest earnings now. We're not just talking about, Naira, because they even charge their investors in dollars.
In dollars, yeah.
So why are we not earning forex through that platform? You see, and that's one thing. But I have heard from experts that Nigeria has one of the toughest, land border sea transportation system.
Waterways.
What would ordinarily take just about 106 hours in some other sub-Saharan African countries would take as much as 296 hours.
One wonders why that is.
Absolutely. So, no serious investor would want to come into Nigeria to experience such a challenge. And that's why most of our vessels are now berthing.
But the federal government is trying to put so many things in place, to correct some of these things, in fact, in different sectors. And then in transportation as well, the government is trying for doing business, improving the economy, letting foreigners get visa almost easily, immediately at the airports once they land. So these efforts really, but then looking at the key sectors to drive economy, because every economy is moving towards a knowledge-based economy where transportation has to be impressive, infrastructure, education, and health. So transportation is very key to drive the development of your economy. So what should be the working formula, really? Should it be about, okay, let's engage in federal character in carrying out projects? Land, rail, and water transportation systems should be put in this state, which of course many may think is not economically viable, or put it in another state that somehow may not have any link with any political figure, but somehow that is when the country is making its money from. Am I communicating?
Yes, but you see, I agree with you. What we simply need to do is to ensure that private sector participation is enhanced. We should really, really encourage the private investors to come into that sector and, of course, invest massively. That's one. Two, we need to train our regulators. You find a situation where politicians are even being appointed to head some of these ministries and agencies of government and what have you, and they probably do not even understand the workings of the transportation sector. So we need to train them. And aside from training the political office holders, we also need to train people who work with them. Somebody is permanent secretary in the Ministry of Transportation, and it does not even understand the workings of the sea situation.
Yeah.
That does not make any sense. Somebody is actually a director, or assistant director, or even the ordinary secretary.
If the sector should be unbundled.
Yes.
To make it more efficient.
Yes. And
now,
training.
Speaking of that, there are plans. Since we're talking about plans, looking forward and all of that, plans for a bill to regulate further open opportunities for private sector investment into critical transport infrastructure. That is what the government is saying. And its explanation is it will be one of the ways of achieving, of government achieving real good transportation system in the country.
Yes. I agree with that because every private sector investor wants to make money. And he or she does not joke with the apparatus of making money.
Yeah.
And so they are very strict. They are, calculated. They are, they just want to get the job done and make money. And so I really want to believe that if you enhance massive private sector participation in this sector, would achieve enormous
But Nigerians
results.
are most usually suspicious when it comes to public-private sector partnership. They say at the end of the day, they will be at the receiving end, and of course they are taxpayers. Of course, if they put roads in place, they would put tolls there and expect the citizens to pay. So Nigerians are always suspicious,
Yes.
Especially when some went awry, some agreements went awry in the past.
You see, they are suspicious because the government is not sincere, or successive governments have not been sincere. You find a situation where you say, okay, yes, you want to unbundle the electricity sector, and so you want to enhance private sector participation, and at the end of the day, you give all the jobs to your friends and your allies and what have you, and politicians, people who do not even have the technical know-how, they don't have any soft skill to even get the job done. And so at the end of the day, you find us in more trouble. And that's exactly what is going on now.
What is key now is transparency.
Transparency,
Thank you very
accountability, and ensure that you give the job to the best man to do it.
Okay, thank you very much for your analysis at this time. Wale Oshunde, you're a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.